Hello and welcome. You are tuned into Your Trades with me, Ankita Saxena, and with me is Snehi Shah. Well, we have wrapped up a rather volatile day of trade. Yet again, a volatile day, but what a whipsaw in the market. But, a sharp recovery is what we saw coming in on the Nifty. We saw that recovery coming in Nifty Bank also. In fact, we managed to cross the 24,700 levels. We also crossed our 50 DMA today on Nifty. We saw recovery on Nifty Bank as well after that volatility, and we managed to close up 0.6% as far as Nifty Bank is concerned. And in the broader markets, we did see the small caps outperforming the benchmarks, but later on in the second half, we did see benchmarks in the broader markets getting outpaced by the benchmark. Now, sectorally, Nifty IT was the top sectoral gainer. That hit its all-time high. It was over 2%. It was led by TCS, Infosys, Persistent Systems on the back of that brokerage note by CLSA. Then this LTI Mindtree. On the back of that, IT sector was buzzing away in trade today. It was a top sectoral gainer. On the back foot, we saw Nifty Pharma that was down almost 0.4%. It was getting dragged down also by Divi's lab because of that Novartis tussle that's going on in the US court. So, big news coming on that as well. On the losing side, we also had the Bajaj Auto, the top dragon Nifty, after, dismissing the price cut claims on Freedom and Pulsar. On the back of that, Bajaj Auto was a top sectoral loser on the Nifty, but a couple of other stocks also, Snehi, that made news today.
Absolutely, lots of newsmakers. If you take a look at what the index has done today, crossed its 100-day DMA, it has taken the Nifty 31 sessions to recover that 24,700 mark from where we had slipped earlier. So, 31 sessions and we're looking good again. We're back over there. And if you take a look at the total market cap across BSE listed companies, that was up by 3.6 lakh crore rupees just on an intraday basis. So, very stellar moves coming in. But like Ankita was mentioning, a couple of other pockets to watch out for in trade today. Based on the stocks that were abuzz, you had Novartis related Divi's labs that was in focus because Novartis in the US failed to stop the generic heart drug, and a lot of this is connected to Divi's labs as well. So Divi's was the stock that was down and out in trade today. On the back of that, like Ankita mentioned, Pharma was on the back foot. If you take a look at Zomato, that stock hit its all-time high today, surpassed the 300 level also in intraday trade today on the back of a CLSA note with a price target of 370 rupees. So that one was doing good. BSE was abuzz all throughout. CDSL, Angel One, very healthy gains coming in on that front. But we also need to give a special mention, a special shout out rather, to cryptocurrency Bitcoin today, because that has also in early hours of today managed to cross the $100,000 mark. So very stellar moves coming in on Bitcoin as well. But let's keep it going with the way the market shaped up today, and let's bring on board Kunal Bothra to understand what's been going on with the market. And Kunal, first half of the trading day, nobody would have ever imagined the kind of moves that we saw coming in the second half. Can we now take a back seat and breathe out a little, be happy, and start getting used to the greens now?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, because after almost the number of days which you mentioned, 31 days, where the Nifty is fallen below the 24,700 mark, out of them 23 or 24 days was where the FIIs were into selling spree. And so it's not just a relief in terms of the FIIs coming back, but it's a relief in terms of the Nifty scaling about the 50% retracement after a 3,000 plus pointer correction for the Nifty. So that, I believe, is a more important technical level which you look out for. We've broken past about the 50-day moving average also. So that's another sign of comfort. The two sectors which have led this up move, the sole stronger performance from these two sectors, IT and banking stocks. These stocks have done reasonably well. What this has also done is that it's led to the confidence and the sentiment coming back into the positives for the markets, because now you're seeing the smaller sectors, like the fertilizer space looking attractive, metal stocks, commodity themes, real estate stocks. These are also the spaces which have started to look very attractive. So when you see risk on sentiment coming back again, and when you see the Nifty scaling past above a 50% retracement, I believe that that's a sign of confidence coming back. 24,500 was a major resistance on the short-term basis. We've crossed about those levels today for the first time, I think, in the last 4-5 days of the index consolidation. So which means 24,500 should now act as a floor or support for the index over the very short term.
All right, Kunal, and now that you mentioned that the risk on sentiment is back in the market, what are the pockets that you're seeing value? Where can we find value in this market, which is fairly volatile, but clearly, as you mentioned, that the investors are back with that risk on sentiment?
Well, absolutely, yes, Ankita. So I think in that aspect, I would suggest two differentiated calls. The first one is Angel One, a very interesting chart. The stock coming back towards its previous multi-week, multi-month highs of 3200, 3300 thereabouts. So would be bullish on Angel One with a potential target over the near term of 3350, 3400 range, and stop loss could be kept at 3100. And the second stock is a more differentiated name. It's a buy on Z Entertainment, and after almost a period of 11 months, the stock has managed to scale past above its 200-day moving average for the first time, which I believe is a very strong technical breakout for Z Entertainment. So would suggest a buy with a target of almost 20 to 25% upside, so closer to 170, and stop loss for this trade could be kept at 128.
Okay, so Angel One and Z Entertainment on Kunal's radar. And Kunal, thanks so much for sharing your outlook as well as your stock picks. On that note, we'll let you go. But let's keep it going with word coming in from experts. And now from the word from the wise segment today, it's Helios Capital's Samir Arora. He detailed his rationale behind investing into the PSU basket. He believes that the valuations of the sector are not cheap. Let's go across and listen in.
We own NTPC and we own State Bank of India, but beyond a point, we are not looking at it that we are owning a PSU stock. In between, when we are buying everything from HPCL, BPCL, Bharat Electronic, and actually a little bit that I own, I don't know about the India guys. But all of these were bought for two angles. One is, okay, something is happening, somebody's giving orders. And second, it's a PSU and it's very cheap and it's being re-rated or rediscovered. I think that part is over. So therefore, now I don't look at it as a theme that whether we are underweight or overweight, because those both macro things of A being very cheap and B somebody trying to change them structurally, whatever they have done is now normal going forward. That's what I mean.
Well, speaking of the PSU pack, let's talk about PSU banks then that have been on a tear with the index 25% higher this year. While the overall Nifty Bank Index is up 10%, clearly the PSU banking pack is outpacing Nifty Bank. But what's really driving this rally, and is it likely to sustain? Well, my colleague Gaurav is joining in with the trends.
PSU Bank Index has actually outperformed Nifty as well as Bank Nifty, and we have got some players like Indian Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, SBI gaining more than 30% in this year itself. So what led to this rally? First, let's go back to second quarter where we saw a strong set of numbers from PSU banks that actually helped PSU Bank as a whole to gain market share almost by 20 basis points in terms of advances. When we talk about this was also led by lower LDR ratios, because when we talk about LDR ratios, PSUs has always been known for having lower LDR ratios, and given that there were some regulatory concerns around LDR, we saw PSUs having an upper edge in this area as well. When we talk about market share, that was not a trend for PSU banks. In fact, PSU banks were losing market share in terms of loan book, but in this quarter we saw them gaining the market share. Other than that, going ahead, we are seeing some kind of tailwinds which can help PSU banks. So first, let's talk about some of the aspects of October data. We have already seen the incremental spreads for PSU banks loan book is rising, and that is the reason why brokerages believe that we may see some kind of interest and net interest margins going up for PSU banks in the near term. Other than that, when we talk about RBI's MPC meet, we are expecting some kind of CRR cuts, and that is the reason that can actually help PSU banks as well to grow their profitability. In fact, when we talk about valuation, although it looks a little stretched if we compare it with 5-year average, PSU bank index is still 11% lower than its all-time high levels. And given that some of the fundamental changes which are happening in the PSU banks, it is really interesting to see how these banks rally even further. And given that the valuations are a little stretched, but the fundamental changes that have happened, we will definitely watch out on how investors get benefited from PSU banks in coming quarters.
Okay, so all eyes will continue to be on that PSU Bank's basket, but in our 10th edition of the India Economic Conclave, you will see a whole host of speakers from across the sectors speaking on various topics that will help India fast track to the top 3. We have more than 50 plus speakers who will be sharing their thoughts on the stage of IEC. Jim O'Neill is a globally renowned economist and is celebrated for coining the BRICS acronym. A visionary strategist, he has profoundly influenced global economic policy and investment strategies. O'Neill continues to shape discussions on emerging markets, sustainable growth, and the future of economic leadership.
So far this decade, partly because of China's challenges, India is already the second largest marginal contributor to global growth after the US, and it's on reasonable course for becoming the third largest sometime in the next decade. Which of course was one of the many projections that made the BRIC acronym. When I come to the Times Network India Economic Conclave, I'm looking forward to discussing the structural challenges that India still needs to try and do more on to make sure it is guaranteed that India will become the third largest economy in the world in the next decade or so.
And well, not only Jim O'Neill, but also Randy Zuckerberg, who's the founder and CEO of Zuckerberg Media, will also be speaking at the IEC. Randy had played an important role in building Facebook with her brother Mark Zuckerberg. Randy, the co-founder of HUG, an inclusive Web3 artist platform that supports artists entering the NFT space by providing discovery tools, educational programs, and networking opportunities. At IEC, Randy will be speaking on how AI will change the future of humanity.
Hi there, welcome back to Your Trade. Let's talk about a stock that was in focus today, and that was Divi's Labs. That was in focus in trade as Novartis failed to halt the launch of the generic version of its popular heart drug Entresto. Now remember, Divi's is a CDMO contractor for Novartis. So how does this impact the company? What's everything that's happening in the US with Novartis got to do with Divi's Labs? Let's take it across to my colleague Varun, who's joining us with an explanation on just that. Varun.
Well, so the US Appeals Court has actually dismissed an appeal filed by Novartis to block the generic version of its blockbuster drug Entresto. Actually, if you look in the month of July, MSN has actually received an approval from US FDA to launch a generic version of the drug Entresto, against which Novartis went ahead and they have filed a lawsuit against MSN. And on this, the federal judge and also the district judge of US court has actually dismissed an appeal filed by Novartis, and now the US Appeals Court has actually upheld the earlier decision of this federal judge and district judge. Now, this is actually very important for Divi's because Divi's has a CDMO contract with Novartis, and Entresto is one of the largest drug in Divi's CDMO portfolio. Let me tell you that in FY24, out of the total sales for Divi's, 8% was contributed by Entresto, and out of the total CDMO sales, 19% was contributed by this drug. And also, because of this generic version coming, it would impact the overall EPS by around 10% for FY26 and 27. So, Novartis not getting, the approval, or Novartis not able to block the generic version of Entresto is actually negative for Divi's as well, but the company says that this would not have any big material impact on the overall financials of the company.
All right, that was Divi's Lab, taking a hit. But another stock that took a hit was Bajaj Auto today. In fact, it's hit 3%. It ended up a percent lower, but it slid as much as 3% today in trade after dismissing the price cut claims on Freedom and Pulsar. Now, the downward movement in the stock came in after the company clarified that a brokerage report regarding the sales volumes and price cuts of Freedom and select Pulsar variants did not present an accurate picture. Now, through a regulatory filing, Bajaj Auto clarified that the dispatch number of Freedom 125, a motorcycle produced by the company, is stated incorrectly at 80,000. Now, that apart, its Pulsar portfolio has over a dozen models, of which some models have been priced up and some down in the last couple of months as a part of the regular exercise to drive competitiveness and profitability. Now, these revisions have been made in the normal course, and as is typical considering the market context, including recognizing the levels of promotions, discounting, etc., that has stepped up in the recent months. The net impact of all of these changes on the quarter has been very, very nominal. But a UBS report that came out on December 4th, 2024 said that the Bajaj Auto has cut the price of Freedom 125cc motorcycle prices by 5 to 10,000 rupees from the mid to entry level variants, and of course that the company had refuted. And the report also stated that a price cut means potential downside to street estimates and the said launch. Bajaj has dispatched over 80,000 units to dealers, while the Vahan retail stands currently at 34,000 units. So despite the dismissal of the report, Bajaj Auto was trading down almost a percent. It closed down a percent. It did blow out as much as 3% in trade today.
Okay, so some recovery seen on Bajaj Auto towards the last few hours on the trade, but nonetheless, it has ended the day with a cut of 1%. But on that note, let me also take it to my colleague Ravinder, who's standing by with a list of all the stocks that were abuzz today. And Ravinder, what a stellar trading day we've had, right? Tell us which stocks caught your attention and which were the ones that were abuzz in trade.
CLSA has come out with their brokerage note on Zomato, and they have maintained an outperform rating on Zomato with target price of rupees 370. This says that the gap between Zomato and Swiggy in quick commerce has stabilized but still exists, particularly in quick commerce. And the Zomato still remain 81% larger in gross order value and 44% larger in monthly transaction users in quick commerce space, because of which we have seen a Swiggy and Zomato both stock were up, and the Zomato is trading at all-time high. Moving to next, Indus Towers, where Vodafone Group PLC has announced the stake of its remaining 79.2 million shares in Indus Towers, which represent a 3% stakes, and the proceed from the sale will be used to repay Vodafone Idea borrowings. Moving to next, Hyundai Motor India, where company has announced price increase across models, which will be with effect from January 2025, and the price increase is due to higher input cost, adverse exchange rate, and increase in logistic costs. Apart from this, Bank of America has also come out with the note on Hyundai Motors, and they have initiated the underperform rating on Hyundai Motor with target price of 1840. Bank of America says that the Hyundai is a good franchisee, but the risk reward is unfavorable at current levels. Moving to next, on back of order win, NBCC is also in focus, where HSCC, a wholly owned subsidiary of company, has received a work order of rupees 599.35 crores. Moving to next, IGL, where board of directors is scheduled to held on December 10, 2024 to consider the proposal for bonus issue.
All right, moving on then, Indrajit Mukherjee, who's the Vice Chairman at Texmaco Rail and Engineering, emphasized that the company's focus on the rail segment. Also added that they expect 100 to 250 basis points margin expansion going ahead. Let's go across and listen into what he had to say about the company's expansion plans.
Our EBITDA margins have been going up, and end of the quarter we would show even a better EBITDA margin. I'm expecting another 100 to 150 points to go up in the quarter that we are on. We are looking at not to put all eggs in one basket. So we are also looking at various other areas where the competencies can bring in synergy. So I wouldn't, 5 years down the road, you may see us doing something which has got some connections with our manufacturing competencies or project competencies. So it will happen like that. But I don't think there's going to be an immediate turnaround because there's a plan on which the railway is working.
Okay, the word coming in from the management of Texmaco Rail, but let's talk about another space that had all our attention today. And ever since the early hours of trading session, Bitcoin has been in focus because that has finally crossed that $100,000 mark for the first time today. The cryptocurrency has seen a stunning surge since the election of Donald Trump in the United States. My colleague Shreyansi is here with more details on what has led to this upsurge and what are the factors behind it. Shreyansi, take it away.
Well, absolutely. You do have crypto having a record run with Bitcoin hitting that $100,000 mark as well. And Bitcoin has been jabbing at the six-figure mark for the last 2 weeks. In terms of key triggers, you have Donald Trump's re-election because there's been a lot of optimism around his policies as well as his stance on cryptocurrencies, because he has said that he plans to create a strategic stockpile of the cryptocurrency as well. There's also a pro-crypto pick for the US Securities and Exchange Commission chair, who's going to be Paul Atkins, who will be replacing Gary Gensler, who has launched lawsuits against major trading platforms. The likes of Binance, Coinbase and Kraken are the ones that I'm talking about. So the change of guard also largely being seen as positive for Bitcoin. Other than that, there's robust demand. Other than that, of course, you do have higher ETF inflows. So in terms of the net inflow year to date, you have $32 billion in inflows coming in for US Bitcoin as well, and $8 billion has been since Trump's re-election as well. Now, in terms of the journey, you have Bitcoin scaling that peak that we've seen come in from just 2010 being around 30 cents to that uptick that we saw on a year-to-date basis, 135%, and last year as well, 157% uptick coming in for Bitcoin. Of course, you did have legal trouble for Sam Bankman that put him in prison for 25 years and also put crypto in one of its most dramatic periods since its inception as well. 80% downtick is what we saw coming in. So against that backdrop, from mere pennies to $100,000, it's been quite the journey for Bitcoin.
All right. On that note, it's time out for us on your trades. Snehi and I will take your leave. Thank you so much for tuning in.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.